and spending lot of time learning new things. Before beginning with the class, let's have a look at the thought for the day. And the thought for today says, a flower does not think of competing with the flower next to it. It just blooms. And what does this thought mean? It means that when you are doing something, don't compete with others. Maybe in the classroom, when you are thinking of getting good marks, don't do it in competition with your classmates, with your friends, but do it just for your betterment. Do it just for your satisfaction that yes, something that I did was exceptionally good. It should not be to show off to others, but to satisfy yourself. And that is what happens. The thought says, the flower which is blooming, it is never in competition to the other flower that is already there. Why? Because the things that you have inside you as an individual will really be different from the other person. Maybe you will be more strong as compared to the other person. It can be any ways, physical, emotional, mental, whatever. So never try of competing with others. The competition, remember always, is with yourself. If today I have done this thing is good, tomorrow it should come out better, and the next day when I try for the same thing, it should be the best. With this note, if you start working, I am sure you will stand out in the crowd. So just try to think about the thought and try to follow it. I am sure it will bring a lot of difference in your life. In today's class, we are going to continue with our chapter, the Rattrap, from your Flamingo book. And we are on page number 33, the last paragraph on that page. The stranger must have seemed incredulous, for the old man got up and went to the window, took down a leather pouch which hung on a nail in a very window frame, and picked out 3 wrinkled 10-corner bills. So, in our previous class we had seen how the Ironworker has found shelter at an old man's home, and how the old man was so generous towards this man. He shared his porridge, his tobacco with him. He even allowed the man to stay overnight. Right? In the morning when they got, so in the night when they were talking about the things, and when the old man says that he had worked as a crofter, and now that when his body is not supporting him physically, he is not able to do the work of a crofter. So what is happening? The cow is helping him out. The cow is supporting him. How? By giving lot of milk which he can give it at the creamery, and he gets money. So he says last month the cow gave so much of money that he had succeeded in earning 30 kronor. That's a Sweden currency, I have already told you. So he then feels, when he is telling this to this Iron Man, to the guest, the host feels that the guest is not believing him. He finds it incredulous, that is unbelievable. And so what does the old man do? He gets up from his place and he goes near the window, and there near the window is hanging a leather pouch. He brings that pouch and shows the 30 notes, rupees notes to him. Bills here stand for the notes. He shows those notes to him. These he held up before the eyes of his guest, nodding knowingly. So he is showing this money to the guest, then stuff them back into the pouch. And after showing, what does he do? He keeps them back into that pouch and hangs the pouch back again onto the window. The next day, both men got up in good season. The crofter was in a hurry to milk his cow, and the other man probably thought he should not stay in bed when the head of the house had gotten up. So now what happens? Next morning, both of them get up at the right time. In good season means at a proper time. And why? Because the old man is in a hurry to milk the cow so that he can carry the milk to the creamery. And obviously when the host is up, the guest might have felt it a little awkward in order to sleep till the late or to be in the bed for late. So he also gets out of the bed out of courtesy. And then the old man is in a hurry to move to the creamery, and the guest, he is now supposed to leave the place and go ahead on his journey. They left the cottage at the same time. The crofter locked the door and put the key in his pocket. The man with the rat trap said goodbye and thank you, and thereupon each went his own way. So now both of them are in a hurry to move, especially the old man is in a hurry to move, and so out of courtesy the Iron Man, the guest, also has to move. So the Iron Man, he thanks his host and wishes goodbye. They wish goodbye to each other, and then both of them walk to their own path, walk on their own path. But half an hour later, the rat trap peddler stood again before the door. So now, after half an hour, what had happened? The peddler. Who's a peddler? A peddler is a person who sells stolen goods. You see, what did this Iron Man make rat traps of? Whatever things he would get out of begging or stealing. So, already the material that he was stealing, that same material he would send it, he would make it into in the form of rat traps and then sell it. So that person is known as a peddler. So he again comes back to the place where he had spent his night, in front of the old man's house. Right? He did not try to get in. However, he only went up to the window, smashed a pane, stuck in his hand, and got hold of the pouch with his 30 kono. So why this man had come to this place? This man had come back because he is a thief, right? And he is into habit of stealing. So when he saw that money with the old man, maybe at night only he had got into his head that I will be taking this money. So next morning after leaving the house, when he is sure that the old man has already gone away from his house and it will take time for him to come back. So he again goes back to the house and he does not try to enter into the house. Why? Because the pouch was hanged right near the glass window pane. Okay, and it was only needed to break the glass, and he just did that, put his hand inside, took out the leather pouch, remove the money from the pouch and hang the leather pouch again in its place. And then the Ironworker left the place. He took the money and thrust it into his own pocket. Then he hung the leather pouch very carefully back in its place and went out. So why had he come there? He had come there just to steal the money. Right? And as his purpose was solved, he carefully took the pouch and hanged it back into its place where it was hanging. He did not throw it or take it with him. As he walked along with the money in his pocket, he felt quite pleased with his smartness. So he is happy, right? Because he had been successful in stealing the money. So he was very happy now and is moving. He realized, of course, that at first he dared not continue on the public highway but must turn off the road into During the first hours, this caused him no difficulty. So in the beginning, he kept on walking and walking for few hours and he did not mind this walking. Right? But what happened later? Later in the day, it became worse, for it was a big and confusing forest which he had gotten into. So later he says it became difficult for him. Why? Because he kept on walking and walking, but he could not reach to a point, reach to a destination. That is, he could not come out of that forest. But what happened? Rather, he felt that it is going on continuously. He is moving into the forest, but the forest is not coming to an end. He tried to be sure to walk in a definite direction, but the path twisted back and forth so strangely. So very carefully he started moving, but the paths were so confusing that he would move very carefully, but again he would come back to that same place. He walked and walked without coming to the end of the wood, and finally he realized that he had only been walking around in the same part of the forest. All at once he recalled his thoughts about the bird and the rat trap. So suddenly he realized that he is only moving around and around in that same place, and every time after taking some covering some distance, he would reach back to that place. And then he remembered the thought that he had the other day, that the entire world is a rat trap, right? And if you get attracted towards the bait, you will fall into the trap. And then today he is imagining, he is able to imagine himself in that rat trap. Now his own turn had come. He had let himself be fooled by the bait and had been caught. So that is what? Now he feels that he himself had been trapped in the rat trap, in the trap. He had let himself be fooled. The whole forest with the trunks and branches, its thickets and fallen logs closed in upon him like an impenetrable prison from which he could never escape. So the whole forest, he says, it was with the trunks and branches. What is there in the forest? It's all covered with trees, bushes, thorny plants and all so on. So he says this was all covered with trunks and branches. Its thickets and fallen logs. Thickets, the thickness. A lot of trees in the forest, so that is like dense forest. The fallen dried wood closed in upon him like an impenetrable prison. So he felt as if he is in a place, he is in a prison from which he cannot come out, which he could never escape. It was late in December. So what time of the year it is? It is during the month of December, and December, as we know, is a winter season. So in winter season, the darkness falls little early. Maybe near around 4:30, 5 o'clock we see that everything is becoming dark. Darkness was already descending over the forest. This increased the danger and increased also his gloom and despair. So in a city place, the darkness is seen. So similarly in the forest, it will be a little more early because of the branches and the trees, the tall trees which block the rays of the sun to get inside the forest easily. And because of that, it started becoming dark a little early in the forest. And then he says that the danger started increasing and increased also his gloom and despair. So as the darkness was increasing, his gloom and despair, the dejection and the hopelessness. He was losing his hope that he could come out of this forest. He could ever reach out of this forest. just as he laid his head on the ground, he heard a sound, a hard, regular thumping. So now he is all hopeless. He doesn't find any hope that he will be able to move out of this forest. He thought now he is going to die here in this forest. Why? Because he was not able to get the right path to move out or to come out of that forest. And so he is sitting on the ground, deadly tired. And when he is just about to lower his head on the ground, he is able to hear a few noises. Right? Now let's see what are those noises. A hard, regular thumping. So somebody is thumping, somebody is beating over something hard. There was no doubt as to what that was. He raised himself. Those are the hammer strokes from an iron mill. So since he was an iron worker, it did not take much time for him to understand, to realize that what was the sound of. He understood very quickly that this is the sound of the hammer that is hitting the iron. So he could make out that there is some factory nearby. There must be people nearby. He summoned all his strength, got up and staggered in the direction of the sound. So now, what did we see just a few minutes before? That he had lost all his hope. And as he had lost all his hope, he sat down on the ground tired. But after this, listening to the sound of the hammer, he got a little ray of hope. And with the help of that hope, he gathered all his strength and he tried to walk towards the direction of the sound. But he was staggering. He was not able to walk properly. Just trying to pull himself with great difficulty. The Ramo Ironworks, which are now closed down, were not so long ago a large plant with smelter, rolling mill and forge. So now this which factory it is, which iron factory it is? Ramo Iron Factory. And he says that it is not long back that the factory has been closed. Recently the factory is closed, and earlier what all things were happening in this factory? They were with smelter, rolling mill and forge. What is a smelter? It's a factory where the metal is separated from the ore. Ore, it's an impure form in which the metals are found. And then he says that there's a rolling mill and a forge. Forge is what? A place where a shape is given. Maybe now since this is an iron factory, so iron things are made. They are put into shapes. In the summertime, long lines of heavy loaded barges and scows slid down the canal. So during the summer, what he says, that long loaded barges. What are barges? They are the long metal boats with flat surface on which the metals are carried. Heavy metals are carried. Heavy loads are carried. Same thing is the scows. Scows are also the flat boat. Otherwise, what is the shape of the boat? It is like this way from the side. But these barges and scows, they are totally flat, which led to a large inland lake. And in the winter time, the roads near the mill were black from all the coal dust which shifted down from the big charcoal crates. So now he says that which led to, so these boats, they are moving in the canal and which are moving towards the mill. Mill were black from the coal dust. Why is this? Because this is an iron factory. So lot of coal is burnt in order to heat the iron, in order to melt the iron and make it into different shapes. And in doing so, lot of smoke must be coming out, which is covering the walls, the windows and everything and making it look black. During one of the long dark evenings, just before Christmas, the master smith and his helper sat in the dark forge near the furnace, waiting for the pig iron, which had been put in the fire to be ready to put in the anvil. So now, during one of the long dark evening, the people, the factory workers, they are working in the factory, and then what are they waiting for? They are waiting for near the furnace. What is a furnace? Yes, that big place wherein the fire is burned and things are melted or made. And in it is bhatti. So there, and they are waiting for the big piece of iron that is being melted so that they can put it in a anvil. Yes, they can pour that liquid thing in an anvil. What is an anvil? It's a hard block. Maybe of what shape you want to give to the iron. So now, every now and then, one of them got up to stir the glowing mass with a long iron bar, returning in a few moments, dripping with perspiration. So as you all might have seen, when people cook food, no, not in previous time, even in some villages now also people prefer eating food made on that charcoal or the wooden sikri, right? So that what has to be done, it has to be attended many times. Like if you are burning the wood, you need to push in the wood after regular timings so that the fire is giving it its proper place. So here also the man would get up, stir the charcoals and then come back. Because this is in the furnace, it will be very hot, extremely hot. So the person who would go near the furnace would return back dripping in perspiration, sweating. He would like literally be wet with sweat. Though, as was the custom, he wore nothing but a long shirt and a pair of wooden shoes. So because you are working near the furnace, you cannot wear thick clothes, you cannot wear lot of clothes. So what was these men wearing? They were wearing one long shirt, loose shirt and wooden chappals, footwear. So that if any charcoal piece is spilled out of the furnace, they don't burn themselves, they don't get hurt. So that's all for today's class. We'll meet you in the next class. Until then, keep learning, keep studying, keep experiencing. Take care.